police responded to a 911 call.
Dramatic video of gun insanity in the Bronx.
Police releasing a new video of a person that they are still trying to track down.
Defund the police is not the answer.
Many people surveyed said they just don't feel safe in the city.
It's a shooting outside of a store.
This is Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast.
Police this morning are searching for the person who turned this Harlem platform to a crime scene.
A Red Apple Media Podcast Network production. Now, here's Bo Dietl.
Welcome back to Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast. You know the deal. We don't hold back, and we damn sure don't waste any time. Today, we have a lot to get into. We're driving headfirst into the chaos of New York City politics, protests, and power plays. The mayor race is heating up. Andrew Cuomo's making a comeback, and the streets are on fire with protests. Columbia University is under federal investigation, and President Trump is making moves that have left the left losing their minds. They're going crazy. Before we jump right into it, I have a big movie review for you. The Alto Nights with Robert De Niro. I went to the premiere on Saturday night, and I have to say a few things. This is a new movie my great friend Nick Pileggi wrote. It was a great script. Nick Pileggi's the greatest screenwriter of all times. He wrote Goodfellas, Casino, The Irishman. He wrote the original article about me when I retired back in 1986 for New York Magazine. He knows organized crime, the mob families, all about that. You had a great script, but the problem? Robert De Niro. Now Robert De Niro plays both characters. I heard Pacino was going to play Vito Genovese and De Niro was going to play Frank Costello. No, Robert De Niro wanted to play both of them. And guess what happens? They bring in Barry Levinson. He knows about organized crime like I know about burn surgery. They should have had the greatest director of organized crime movies. Martin Scorsese should have directed this film. It would have been a grand slam home run. My issue with Robert De Niro is no matter how he feels, he should stop worrying about Donald Trump and he should stop worrying about politics. He should focus on his acting abilities and making a great movie. He's a very fine actor, I hate to say, but come on now. All right, my friends, here's one of them. Now let's get to it first. All I can say is one thing. They had an issue in the movie. There was a guy named Vinny the Chin. Now, his nickname was the Chin because he used to go like this when you talked about him. Only problem is, in the movie, they got an actor and they put 6 chins underneath them. Stupid. But you don't want to know something? Let's get to talk about what's going on, more important, with this New York City race. Things are starting to heat up. I'm stating right now, I'm 100% in support of one guy, Curtis Sliwa, to be the mayor of New York City. I know he's a Republican, and there's not many registered Republicans in New York City, but Curtis Sliwa is my choice for public safety and security. I will be financially supporting him and ask my listeners to support him also. And guess what? Who's back? My friend, Andrew freaking Cuomo, the guy who walked away from politics, is now making a big play for the big comeback. And let me tell you, he's not coming quietly. Cuomo is raking in cash. In just the last 13 days, he's pulled in $1.51 million for his mayoral campaign. That's a monster number, and it dwarfs his competition, and he gets better for him in this campaign. His campaign says they raised $332,000. Of that qualifies for the city's 8-to-1 public matching funds, which could send his total soaring past $4.17 million. Wow, that's a lot of money if the campaign finance board signs off on it. Meanwhile, our girl here, Adrienne Adams from the city council president, who's a moron, is off to a rough start, and she's struggling. The city council speaker scrapped together $128,000 in her first week, which let's be real about it. It's peanuts in this race. Worse yet, she didn't qualify for matching funds, putting her at a real major financial disadvantage. And in this city, if you don't have the cash, you're already playing behind ball. Now, let me tell you why this matters. Because of New York's campaign financing system, 8-to-1 matching funds on small donation, the public matching funds is how candidates turn thousands into millions. Without it, Adrienne Adams is going to be up against big money. But her team, they're staying optimistic. They're pointing out big energy from over 100, that's over 1,100 donors, 875 of them from New York City. They claim that once she meets the qualification, she'll be looking at 624,000 in public funds. But here's the reality to this. In this game, it's about momentum. And she's playing catch-up right now. While the other guys are stacking their chips, speaking of stacking them chips, guess who's dominating all the money? Andrew Cuomo. He's got a super PAC. Fix the city, backing him. And let's face it, money talks in politics. And let's talk about the others who are backing Cuomo. He's got some real heavy hitters. He got big checks from former United States Attorney Jeffrey Berman, fashion designer Ramley Sharp, Republic Records CEO Monty Lippman, and even Jessica Steinfeld. And get this, his ex-wife, Carrie Kennedy, even chipped in. That's when you know you got deep connections. Cuomo's calling his support humbling and pushing his message that New York needs a reset. He's selling himself as the guy who can make the city better, safer, stronger, and more affordable. His campaigns is saying they expect to hit the maximum fundraising cap by, guess this, the next deadline. If that happens, Cuomo's walking into this race with a war chest that could steamroll all the competition. So what does this mean? Eric Adams is in trouble. His campaign still is holding $4.4 million. I wonder where this came from. He's got legal issues keeping him from getting the public funds. Adrienne Adams is barely getting started and is already in the hole. And Cuomo, he's sitting back, stacking money, stacking his chip, waiting to crush anyone that gets in his way. And here's a twist. Check this out. Brooklyn Democratic boss Rodenice Basheka, or whatever her name is, she was the boss of Brooklyn. She just flipped and turned in support of the Cuomo team. Now, this is the same woman who called for Cuomo to resign back in 2021. So why all of a sudden the change of heart? Oh, maybe because her husband now works for the Cuomo's campaign. Funny how that works, huh? Now let's shift gears. A lot of protests happened in the city last week, and I have a few things I'd like to touch on. Let's start with Hollywood. Everyone loves Hollywood. They also love running their mouth about politics that they really don't understand. This time, actress Debbie Winger, that Deborah Winger, she joined a protest on Thursday, March 13 at Trump Tower in New York City. The demonstration was in response to the arrest of Mohammed Khalil, a Columbia University graduate and activist currently facing deportation. Let's talk facts. Khalil isn't some innocent activist. He's been pushing anti-Israel protests at Columbia, spewing hate, and he's been accused of supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. ICE picked him up on March 8, and Trump himself made it clear this is just the beginning. But now we got Deborah Winger saying she has a debt to pay because of her Jewish upbringing. Really? What the hell does that even mean? And then it comes to compare President Trump to fascists. Here we go again. Let's be real. The old fascists I see are the ones that are screaming in the street, waving terrorist flags and attacking cops. Speaking of attacks, 150 of these radicals stormed Trump Tower's atrium, screaming for Khalil's release. Cops did their job, arresting 98 of them. Here's the bottom line. If you support terrorist organizations, if you incite chaos, you don't get a free pass. President Trump is cleaning house, and if Hollywood doesn't like it, tough luck. America stands with law and order, period. But the protests don't stop there. On Saturday night in New York City, March the 15th, over 700 protesters flooded the streets from Times Square to Columbus Circle, all demanding the release of Mohammed Khalil. And this wasn't just some little peaceful protest. Masked agitators waving Hamas flags, cursing at police, screaming at pro-Israel supporters, You had people yelling slurs, getting aggressive, and turning the streets of New York into a war zone. Protests for Khalil. I want to reiterate this. This guy, this piece of garbage, was a leader of Colombia's anti-Israel protests. He was pushing all kinds of crap. After the Hamas attack in October 7th massacre in Israel, ICE picked him up, and all of a sudden, we got people treating him like he's a martyr. This is the guy that was talking about death to Israel, death to Jews, death to everybody. Give me a break. And let me tell you, President Trump's not playing games here. This is just the beginning of his crackdown on campus radicals, spewing hate and anti-Semitism. You push for chaos, you support your terror, you're going to face the consequences. New York is not a playground for these extremists. Time's up. All right, now listen to this, because I need you to get this straight. There were 2 hardworking janitors we're only hearing about now at Columbia University. They were attacked, harassed, and bullied just for doing their jobs. And now Columbia is under investigation, federal investigation, for letting it happen. Lester Wilson and Mario Torres, 2 guys just trying to make an honest living with their families. They were forced to scrub swastikas off the walls while the university stood by and did nothing. They came to Hamilton Hall with the takeover. These guys were trapped inside. They were attacked by a mob, shoved, blocked from leaving, and mocked for working for the Jews. One of them was even pushed outside while being called a Zionist. So what happened after they reported? Columbia did nothing to protect them. No, instead, these guys face even more harassment, so much that they haven't been able to return to work due to the trauma and injuries. Enough. Now, the EEOC is investigating Columbia for failing to protect these workers. The Trump administration, they're cutting $400 million in federal funding and looking into whether foreign student protesters broke the law. You want to talk about systemic injustice? How about this? Columbia University let anti-Semitic mobs run wild, terrorized 2 blue-collar workers, and now they're finally facing the consequences. Columbia thought they could sweep this under the rug. Now they're the ones that are being held accountable. And it's about damn time. The Democrats are in full-blown meltdown mode. Just on MSNBC, Simon Sanders Townsend, a former Biden-Kamala insider, dropped a bombshell on live TV. She's leaving the Democratic Party and resigning as an independent. Why? Because Chucky Schumer folded like a paper napkin and backed the Republican-led funding bill. Yep, you heard that right. Schumer forces join with President Trump on the budget. And what happens? The far left loses its mind. Hakeem Jeffries and the progressives, they refuse to back Schumer. Left-wing activists are calling for a new Senate leadership and talking about primaries in 2028. And Sanders Townsend, she didn't hold back. She said straight up, they blew it. This was their one shot to stand up to Trump. And instead, they caved in. You know what else is piling on? Former Representative Donna Edwards, another Democrat, called this a black mark on Schumer and proof that Republicans can outmaneuver guys every single time. And out on the streets, massive protests. Thousands marched through lower Manhattan, raging over budget cuts, health care, housing, student aid, all tied to the spending bill Schumer just helped pass. Look, here's a real story. President Trump is reshaping the government. He's making big cuts, deep cuts to spending. He's slashing federal programs. And guess what? The Democrats can't figure out how to fight back. They're eating each other up alive while President Trump runs the table. This ain't just a budget fight. This is a full-scale Democratic civil war. And let me tell you, President Trump, he's sitting back watching and loving every second of it. And now Chucky Schumer is running scared. The Senate Minority Leader canceled his book tour, and guess what? He's blaming security concerns. Nah, Chuck, it ain't that. Security it's the fact that your own party is coming for you. So here's the deal. Schumer helps the Republicans pass a funding bill to keep the government open, which sounds reasonable, right? But to the radical left, that's a betrayal. This other idiot, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Sunrise Movement, and all the other progressive warriors wanted a government shutdown so they could use it as leverage against President Trump. Now they're furious, saying Schumer gave up leverage for free. Their collectively signatures are now starting to primary him in 2028. Even Hakeem Jeffries, the guy running the House Democrats, refused to back Schumer when asked if he still support him. And if that ain't just as far left, Jewish activists are planning protests too. They're mad at Schumer for not passing the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. The guy wrote a book about anti-Semitism, but how do we say that? Anti-Semitism. Yes, that's how I say it. But when it came time to act, crickets. Now protesters are planned for his Upper East Side book event. So what's up? What does Chuck do? He canceled the tour. His security concerns. It wasn't security. It was about legal protests. Protesting you, Chuck. Let's call it what it is. Schumer's in trouble. The Democrats are eating their own. They don't know what they stand for anymore. Moderates can't stand the progressives. The progressives can't stand the moderates. And President Trump, he's just watching the fireworks. Chuck Schumer, he might become a Republican. He thought he was untouchable, but maybe he should run as a Republican. But by now, his own party is shoving him out the door. Now let's focus on something that has a lot of people talking. You're listening to Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast. Please stay tuned with this message, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Bell, and if you know my husband Dax, then you also know he loves shopping for a car. Selling a car? Not so much.
We're really doing this, huh?
Thankfully, Carvana makes it easy. Answer a few questions, put in your VIN or license, and done. We sold ours in minutes this morning, and they'll come pick it up and pay us this afternoon.
Goodbye, Truckee.
Of course, we kept the favorite.
Hello, other Truckee.
Sell your car with Carvana today. Terms and conditions apply.
Claptrap here. Two big things are coming this fall. Borderlands 4 and Spotify Wrapped. So stop listening to that one playlist that reminds you of your ex who only made you cry. Talking about you, Veronica. And pre-order Borderlands 4, coming out September 12th.
Rated mature.
I want to talk about another major shift in U.S. policy. The Trump administration is pulling the U.S. out of the International War Crimes Investigation into Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, before everybody loses their minds, let's break it down. First off, this group, the International Center for Prosecution of Crime Aggression Against Ukraine, or the ICPA, was set up to investigate war crimes in 2022 Russian invasion. The U.S. was the only non-European country sending a senior prosecutor to work in Hague, working alongside Ukraine and other allies to go after Russia, Belarus, North Korea, and Iran. But now they're out. The Trump administration is scaling back the war crimes accountability teams. This was the same Department of Justice unit helping Ukraine prosecute Russian soldiers accused of torturing an American in 2023. So why the shift? Trump is looking to repair relations with Russia. This move sends a message. Maybe we're finally going to be the ones leading the charges on war crimes. And you want to know something? Maybe it's time for Europe to handle it. Let them handle it. Now some folks are going to say this is a betrayal, that we're not walking away from justice, turning our back on Ukraine, letting Putin off the hook. Others are going to say this is a smart foreign policy, strategic move to cool things down and refocus on our own interests instead of playing the world's police. Here's the deal, whether you like it or love it or hate it, Europe's moving forward. Without us, Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Romania, they're still in it. The big question is, are we stepping back because we've got a bigger plan, or is this the sign that we're going soft on Putin? Either way, this ain't some small delusion. This is a major shift in how America operates on the world stage. And you better believe the whole world is watching. All right, folks, let's break down a recent news regarding the Ukraine war. Just hours after Trump and Putin had their big phone call promising to erase and ease tensions, both Russia and Ukraine went right back at it. Putin told Trump he'd stop targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, but almost immediately, Russia launched over 40 drone attacks hitting hospitals, energy sites, and civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. One of those strikes, a hospital in Sumy, which had a wing completely caved in. How can we even trust this guy, Putin? Zelensky's calling this a total rejection of peace talks. Ukraine didn't sit on its hands. Ukraine lifted their drones and hit an oil depot in Russia. And the Russian Defense Ministry says 57 Ukrainian drones were intercepted overnight, with 35 of them targeting the border region of Tersak. Over the Belgorod, just across Ukraine border, Moscow claims Ukraine even tried a ground assault, but was pushed back. Despite all this, both sides did manage to exchange prisoners, 175 prisoners of war, each plus an additional 22 severely Ukrainian soldiers. So a small step forward in a war that seems to have no end in sight. And now, here's the next big moment. Zelensky set to talk to President Trump today. No word yet what will come out of that. But the White House's Middle East envoy, my friend Steve Witkoff, says U.S.-led Ukraine talks will continue in Saudi Arabia this Sunday. Putin says a full ceasefire can only happen if Ukraine allies stop sending weapons, which is, let's be real, isn't happening. President Trump is trying to broker a peace deal, but if neither side's willing to hold on the line, this is just another pause before this war rages on. Now let's talk about Doge. We have a judge stepping in to stop Trump, Elon Musk from cutting waste in federal government. U.S. Judge Theodore Chang, whatever his name is, an Obama-appointed judge, just put a halt to the Trump administration's move to dismantle U.S. aid, the Agency for International Development. Now, let's be clear. U.S. aid is one of the biggest taxpayer funding cash cows in Washington, doling out $60 billion a year to foreign aid. Trump called it a swamp operation run by the radical lunatics. And guess what? He's not wrong. So what did Musk and Doge do? They shut it down. They fired employees, removed signature, and ended a bunch of these foreign spending programs. The plan was to bring U.S. aid under the State Department, with Secretary of State Mark Rubio running the show. But now a bunch of ex-U.S. aid bureaucrats sued, and this judge just put the brakes on it all. Here's what Chang, whatever his name is, ruling does. It orders Trump administration to restore all email, all computer access, and to U.S. aid employees, and gives the White House 7 days to confirm those emails are back up. It demands that U.S. aid gets back into its D.C. headquarters within 2 weeks. Now, the big question in this case, Musk's role in all this. Trump has called him the boss of Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, which is slashing wasteful spending right and left. But the White House lawyers say Musk isn't actually a federal official. He's just a special advisor. The judge ain't buying it, saying Musk acted like he was in charge, shutting down U.S. aid, even pulling a similar move on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So here's the bottom line. Trump and Musk are cleaning house, slashing billions in foreign aid, and Washington's fighting them at every turn. This isn't about helping Americans. This is about protecting their bloated, broken system. And Musk, he's not backing down. He reposted Charlie Kirk saying, the only two rules that the left follows are open borders and sending our money overseas. Folks, this is about your priorities. You got American families struggling. Veterans are not getting the care they deserve. Crime is skyrocketing in the cities. But Washington, the Washington establishment is fighting to keep billions flowing to these foreign countries. Instead of fixing our problems, so who's running the country? Trump, Musk, and the people who voted for them. There was a vote back in November when we voted Trump in to get rid of this usage of monies that should be in the United States. This fight ain't over. If you think it stops there, think again. We'll have another judge stepping in and blocking President Trump's decision to ban transgender individuals from serving in the military. U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes out of D.C. says this order likely violates constitutional rights, and she said she's going to fight it. Now Trump signed this executive order in January saying that the military has to maintain the highest level of discipline, mental fitness, and readiness. He argues that gender identity conflicts with the mission. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth backed him up, saying the individuals that don't know who they are should be disqualified because of the risk to the military. But, boom, Judge Reyes says she shuts it down, issued an injunction on Friday, so now the administration has another fight in court to duke it out with. And look, this isn't the first time this issue had gone back and forth. Obama allowed transgender troops back in 2016, and Trump banned it back in 2016, his first term. Then Biden reversed it. Now Trump's back again. The battle's on again. The real question is, who decides what's best for our military? The courts or the commander-in-chief and his top military advisors? If Trump is saying this is policy about military strength and discipline, that should be a judge should step out and get the hell out of this decision. Look, our military job is to be not a social experiment. It's to win wars. You think China, Russian, and Iran have any kind of debate on this bullcrap? Hell no. They're building a stronger, tougher, more lethal fighting force. Meanwhile, we're tied up in our courtroom with whose identity is a man, a woman, a transformer, whatever. Trump is trying to put the focus back on military readiness, and the courts keep getting in the way. Will this end up back in the Supreme Court? Probably. But in the meantime, what happens to discipline? What happens to recruitment? What happens to strength of our military fighting force? These are real serious issues. Questions that we will be asking. All right, here we go again. Another judge, another blocked on President Trump's order. Chief Justice John Roberts is coming out swinging again. President Trump, this time, slamming him for calling on the impeachment of a federal judge who blocked the deportation order. Now let's break this down. Judge James Borsag, whatever his name is, a Barack Obama appointee, mind you, stepped in and blocked President Trump from fast-tracking the deportation of violent Venezuelan gang members. He did it under this 1978 Alien Enemies Act, but he didn't really have to do it that way. He should have just picked them up, let ICE pick them up, and then get rid of them as far as being illegally in this country and committing crimes. You know what? That's something that these guys don't understand. He went wrong a little bit there because they're using that act, and he didn't have to use this act. He could have stopped it cold. You know what? All I know is, understandably, President Trump is furious. He called the judge a radical lunatic and said he should be impeached. And guess what? Texas Congressman Brandon Gill wasted no time in filing articles of impeachment with support from several House Republicans. And here comes Chief Justice Roberts lecturing everyone from his ivory tower, saying impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement with a judicial decision. Give me a break. Since when does the Supreme Court chime in on political fights like this? Let's give the Supreme Court what they're supposed to be doing on the law. Where is the outrage from activist judges? We're blocking Trump's policies left and right. And let's not forget, Judge Roberts has done this before. Back in 2018, Trump called out another Obama-appointed judge for blocking his asylum policy, and Roberts rushed to defend the so-called independent judge. But let's be real about these. These are all Obama judges, Trump judges, Biden judges. Everyone knows it. So spare us the above-frame nonsense. And you want to talk about judicial overreach? Even Attorney General Pam Bondi says Boasberg, the judge, is meddling in national security and overstepping his bounds. And she's right. A single judge deciding on national immigration policy is insanity. Look, this is what President Trump was elected to get done. Get these violent criminals out of our country. And the establishment and the bureaucrat judges should not be involved in this at all. So you know what? They're going to try to stop them. So the question is, who really is defying democracy here? The guy carrying out the will of the voters, or the unelected judges blocking him at every turn? And let's see if Congress has the guts and the balls to hold these activist judges accountable, or even if it's just more of the same swamp politics. Lastly, I want to talk about the legal mess unfolding around President Trump's executive orders. 46 court rulings. 46 have either been blocked or paused as part of President Trump's initiative. Judges are going after everything from his mass firings of federal employees, his crackdown on illegal immigration, the freezing of trillions of federal funds, and even his ban on birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court has already weighed in 3 times, once siding with Trump and twice against him. There's a long road ahead. Appeals are piling up, and some of these cases could end up right back in front of the justice of the Supreme Court. Elon Musk's Doge cuts are under fire, and even the FBI agents are suing to stop Trump from exposing the people who went after him on the January 6th investigation. So what's next? Will Trump power through these legal battles, or will the courts keep blocking his moves? One thing for sure, this fight is far from over. All right, everyone there, you have another breakdown of what's really happened out there. The political landscape is shifting fast, and the stakes are really higher than ever. And if you're not paying attention, you're really behind. But there's one thing you're not going to get. You're not going to get the fake story from the mainstream. That's really why I'm here. That's why I'm doing Bo Dietl's One Tough podcast. That's why it exists, to bring you the truth loud and clear. So hit the subscribe button and share this episode, and let's keep exposing the nonsense together. We'll be back next time with more hard-hitting truths and unfiltered takes. Until then, stay sharp, stay tough, and don't believe the hype. This is Bo Dietl's One Tough podcast. Tell others. Thanks for tuning in.